We are live yet again, and I just wanted to say this is going to be my author's chat of the week, so I'm just going to keep my eye out for my co-host when he joins, so I can invite him in. I know this is his first time doing a live, so let's cross our fingers that everything goes smoothly. I see him on here. Perfect. Now let's note the invite, and we shall get going.
Hey.
Oh, hey, you got it. That was perfect.
Like perfect.
How are you?
Not too bad. How about yourself?
I'm good. I'm glad we could do this and get together, and I'm glad you navigated doing your first live, and this is exciting.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I don't know if you've ever listened to any of my lives before when I talk to other authors, but what I like to do is just let you, because you're my co-host this week, introduce yourself, talk about, whatever you want to say as your author's pitch, and I'll do the same, because we always get new people, and both are, both viewers, will chime in, and we'll go from there.
Okay, sounds good. Well, I'm David Vissers, author of science fantasy and space opera. I was previously published through a small press publisher.
Mm-hmm.
I published both of these. There we go.
Ooh, I like
And
that color.
yeah, so this one is my epic fantasy,
I
and
love
this
it.
space opera.
Oh, okay, yeah.
When I left my publisher, both of them were unpublished, and so that's
Mm-hmm.
when I decided to go my own route, make my own publishing company, and self-publish my own books. And
Fantastic.
so the book that I'm advertising right now on my page is Darkness in a Sea of Stars, and that is actually the revised version of this book. So I
Oh,
decided to do a new title, new series name, and try and do a rebrand under my own name instead of trying to recover what I had with the former publisher.
I
So,
gotcha. Well, I mean, that's the thing I've heard about when it comes to authors doing small print publishing. Some have fantastic stories, and that's great, and others have less so. And it's one of those things is if you are a person listening to this and you're interested in different potential routes of publishing, do your research. I don't know the background or why you chose to, you two to go different ways, but there's always going to be, if that is the case, there's a good reason why. And I've heard it from several different authors, and they have backed away from their agents or publishing, houses, small print publishing houses for different reasons. So do your research.
exactly, yeah. And I joined with them in 2017, and that was before I learned about self-publishing and this whole
Mm-hmm.
other world that we're a part of now. And I thought that that was the only offer I was going to get for a while, and so I
Yeah.
took it. For a little bit, it was nice. I didn't have to pay anything to get anything published, and that was really awesome. But
Mm-hmm.
over the years, it just kind of like they didn't have as or they weren't so particular with everything as I was, and both of my books were formatted totally different ways, and it
Oh.
just, yeah, it was
Ooh,
they just winged it on each print.
yeah.
And I just wanted consistency, and that's why I decided to go my own route.
I understand. And again, it goes back to that point. Do your research because, yes, there are going to be some small print publishing houses that, are very um, detail oriented and, they're, wanting to make sure they produce the best they can, and others are maybe less so. And as an author, you want your work, since your baby, to be as good as it can be and have
Exactly.
the
Yep.
best chance of reaching people. But how do you like self-publishing so far? Because you said you backed away. Was it a couple years ago, or was it more recent than that?
Pretty recently. It was in
Okay.
December.
Yeah.
We went our separate ways, so I'm just getting started in all of this on my own. But one thing I never got to do with my former publisher was beta reading and ARC reading.
Hmm.
So with them, it was pretty much send us your manuscript, we'll look it over, then we'll make the book and then put it out there. There was no lead up to it and stuff like that. And the only advertising they did was on Facebook, and you know how many people respond there.
Yeah.
So,
It's hard. Thank you. But yeah, it's tough. It really is because yeah, ads is where my biggest weak point I feel as an independent author is I can never figure out how to work the ads, and when I finally get one to work, I don't know why it's working, and it never lasts forever. It really doesn't. So I had one that kind of worked for one of my books and did very, very well all fall and kind of cruised through the holidays, and then just not that long ago, I blinked and it's just flatlined, and I'm like, why?
yeah, yeah, and
It is,
you make a second one to try and play off the same success as the first one, and then
mhm.
just doesn't have the same results.
Oh yeah, it's a trick. It's one of those things down the line. If I can figure out how to afford it, I would love to outsource that and be like, someone else run my ads for me. That's one thing I don't know much about. I really don't want to do. I don't mind the marketing and like the social media and all that kind of stuff on my end, the newsletters and all that. I can do all that. That's fine. But ads I don't get. But they can if you have some great ads, they can bring you some decent income as an author. That's kind of one thing we want.
Right.
So you have one of your two out now. Are you rebooting your other one, your epic fantasy, or are you focusing right now on your space opera?
Yeah. So right now I'm refocusing on getting my main series back out there.
Mm-hmm.
Right before publisher, I was about to release the second book in the series. So that manuscript is all ready to go. So
Ooh.
I wanted to focus on getting the first book back out
Yep.
there again, and
Mm-hmm.
then get the second one out there. Not really right away, but like followed up with it, and then kind
Mm-hmm.
of take that back and look at the epic fantasy. And when they released my epic fantasy, it was pretty small. It was like 79,000 words, which is pretty low for an epic fantasy.
Yes.
And they didn't want to wait for me to fluff it up and add content to it, and they prematurely released it basically. And
Yeah.
I just want to take the time to add the stuff to it, make it better, fill in the gaps that are in the story, and just put out my best work.
Yeah, no, I definitely understand that. And I'll get back to the point. Thank you for saying happy birthday. My birthday's next Monday or this coming Monday,
No,
so
happy
I appreciate
birthday.
that. People know. Thank you. But yeah, no, I totally I get that. I get that. I went straight indie from the get-go, but yeah, I don't know what I would do if someone tried to pressure me to release something before it was ready. And again, I really do love being an indie author for so many ways. I wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
mind, okay, so if I got an offer from one of the big publishing houses for a series, it would be kind of cool to be hybrid, have some of my own content that I have full control over, and someone, that able to reach the masses a little quicker than I can.
Right. Yeah.
But but with that said, yeah, it's really neat being an indie author because for so many ways you have that ability that if there is like an error you can jump on and tweak it. Like if someone points out, hey, there's a spelling error, you can literally go into your files, edit it, upload it, and change it up. Or you could do an overhaul if you really feel like for whatever reason it would do better to have more, like you're doing right now, is making the book so much better. And being epic fantasy, usually they tend to be on the slightly longer side, so kind of making it fit that genre a little bit more.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And like,
So, oh, sorry, yeah, go go.
I asked when they released the book, I had asked for like a extra 6 months just to like play with it, get people's input on it, and stuff like that. But like it literally did not even reach any beta readers before it got released.
Mm-hmm.
So like I had zero feedback on that story, and
Mm-hmm.
when the publisher had released it was I wrote it in 8 parts, and this was before Kindle Vella was a thing,
Mm-hmm.
and so they released each part as like an ebook, about a 15,000 word ebook.
Mm-hmm.
And when the eighth part came out, they combined it all, threw it into a book, and released it. And it was my plan to fill it or put fillers in between each of the parts and actually turn
Mm-hmm.
it into a book before that happened. So,
Yeah.
plan now.
Well, good. Well, now you have a little bit more time, and the nice thing is you can focus that you have re-released one of your books and, promote that one while you're working on another one on the side, and you'll
Yep.
be able to release your work far more quickly because you have a lot of it done already.
Yep.
So yeah, so you were talking about you had to switch your name. Did you have a pen name before and now you're using your name, or how is
Oh,
that working?
I'm keeping my name. I used my actual name for my books.
Okay.
I changed the book title and the series name.
Oh,
So
okay, the series name.
for yeah, before it was the first book was When Darkness Prevails,
Yeah.
and the second was The Gods of Ricora, and it was part of a trilogy called The Zare Prophecy. And that trilogy had already burst into 4 books instead of 3. And so when I decided to do my rebranding under my self-publishing,
Mhm.
I called this series now Epithanor, which is the name of the legend that's in there, the
Ooh,
prophecy. It's kind of like a Ragnarok type
I
story.
love Ragnarok. Says the woman who
Yeah,
writes Viking fantasy. I love
yeah.
that.
So it's a prophecy about the end of not just my fantasy world, but of Earth as well. And
Wow.
main character is the chosen one, and
Hmm.
she witnessed to the end of both her planets.
Wow.
And because she leaves Earth and goes to colonize this fantasy world, um, it's space opera. So uh, yeah, and so yeah, and then the prophecy happens, and there's a lot of stuff that I'd probably spoil if I kept talking.
It's okay. Well, we'll try to avoid the spoilers. I like learning, the little pitch. Like, what do you have on your blurb? That kind of content to give
Yeah.
us a little taste. It's always nice also to hear the tropes or the genres and subgenres, because once you hear that, you can kind of, at least as a potential future reader, you're like, that's right up my alley. I love the
So
chosen one archetype. I love space operas.
yeah,
So perfect.
my elevator pitch has been chosen one loses herself on a space opera quest for revenge.
Ooh, I need you to figure out how to write my elevator pitches. I'm not good with these like little taglines, and I'm like, no, it's not working for me.
Yeah, the tagline for my first book is playing God can have apocalyptic consequences. And it's about in the first book there's a medical corporation that is the biggest or the leader in the world for healthcare, and they do genetic research on humans, and one
Oh,
of the experiments escape, and it causes a viral pandemic. And I wrote this before 2020, so it was kind of coincidence that everything just kind of happened like that.
okay. So it's like the ink. I don't know if you read Inkheart, but kind of like the Inkheart vibes. You wrote it into reality, so we can blame you
Right,
now.
right. Yeah, and
For the course.
so the first book is about the viral pandemic, and they had discovered a starship that was out of power out by Saturn,
Hmm.
and NASA did, and so they reverse engineered the technology, and it advanced Earth centuries ahead of schedule,
Wow.
and created like this navy and everything, and they're starting to colonize star systems and stuff. And like the big political climate in my book is, should we terraform our solar system or initiate first contact with the aliens on this planet that the starship is from and colonize that world? And
Wow.
there's big political figures that are for each
Mhm.
side. And ultimately, this viral pandemic is what motivates them to leave Earth and go colonize this planet. And nothing goes as you would expect, obviously.
We like, okay, I can't say we. I like twists. So, I
Yeah,
do want to be I don't want to read a book and be like I predicted the ending. I want to be surprised at least a couple times along the way. Even if the end game I kind of figured out, I still want to have those surprises. So, we
yeah.
like twists. So, what got you into space opera? I see you have let me not mess up his name, Boba Fett in the background.
Yeah, yeah, that's my Boba Fett helmet. Yeah,
Yay.
growing up, I was huge into Star Wars and
Ah.
like all the different aliens, different planets, and
Hmm.
uh, like that. And then as I got older, that James Cameron's Avatar came out,
Oh
and
yeah.
huge inspiration for me. So that helped me realize that, like, because when I first started creating Honduras, my fictional world, it was
Hmm.
just like a region, like Middle Earth or Narnia or whatever, like that. So like watching Avatar made me realize that like I can make it a whole planet. And then I had this idea that like early America, where people are coming from all over the world to create this melting pot in America. And so I
Hmm.
did that with Honduras. It's originally the homeworld of the dragons, and like I have dragon lore, and there's a dragon god that comes in the fourth book, and so what happens is I have this race called the Rockness, and they think of themselves as like these watchers over the universe. And so they go around judging these races and stuff, going unchecked because the leader is basically a god. He's
Hmm.
consumed magic, and it has made him really powerful. And he's created a hive mind with his race, so he can
Ooh.
be everywhere all at
Wow.
once. And so it makes him a really formidable enemy.
I
And
could.
so that's my key enemy and throughout all four books.
I could see
Um,
that. That would be hard to do. I would fighting a hive mind. I don't know. That always sounds like it's going to be hard.
I'm still racking my brain to try and figure out how to like make it like a scientific explanation to how it's created. But right now, I've just got the he consumed a lot of magic, and it's magic. Because
Well, that's the nice thing. Is like you can do like that hybridism in your stories. There's nothing that says you have to stick 100% with one or the other.
right, yeah, and
And I see a comment. I think it was talking a little bit earlier on about you, and you were describing your books and the colonizing and everything. It was just asking if you were being inspired, I guess, politically at all by this socialist concept. Someone who's
uh,
studying doing a
not
social studies.
a little bit, maybe like fictional socialism. Like my main inspiration was like the beginning of Starfleet, like in
Okay.
Star Trek Enterprise, when they it's not quite Starfleet yet. They just have
Mm-hmm.
like science of planets. So basically, what happened in my world is that when they found the starship that was out by Saturn, they realized they're not alone in the universe. So that just made all of the problems that they have on Earth irrelevant, with the
Mm-hmm.
fact there might be a more powerful race out there that might
Mm-hmm.
mess with us. So that created my uh, political party, the Earth's Assembled Nations, and it's basically that's what the startup of mine is. It's like the pre Starfleet. That's what that pretty much is. Like it's this council of seven council members that have that like or they don't rule over them, but they're designated by certain countries to make a ruling on their behalf in the situation that Earth comes under an attack. That way, Earth has like a unified response to whatever happens. So the
Okay.
EAN has created these starships and has created an AI system that operates on the starships and controls these drones. I use drones in place of star pilots and starfighters,
Mm-hmm.
and so the EAN like runs the whole galactic navy, and so like for example, I have the president in the United States. He's on
Mm-hmm.
the council, and he speaks on behalf of Canada and Mexico and America. And then there's a counselor in China that speaks for China and the surrounding countries over there. I don't go too heavy into the details. I just kind of like explain it as it's going on in the story. I
Yeah.
too political in the book and take away from the story. But
No,
that's pretty much the gist of it. It's like an early version of Starfleet. So it did have some inspiration from fictional socialist societies.
well, I think like be it fantasy or sci-fi or combinations or anything like that, even though that's very deep into the realm of fiction, when you're developing a very vibrant world or
Mm,
universe or multiverse or whatever you're doing, I mean, you do want to incorporate things that make it real, which, political agendas or, viewpoints are something that plays part. I mean, Game of Thrones, you had like different political agendas in that one too,
yeah,
and different kind of ones, but stuff like that too. But it just makes it a little more real and a rich environment, even if you may not agree with what's going on. But
exactly.
but yeah, so how long it sounds like you were pretty deep intrinsically in your own development of your world, your universe, multiverse universe. I don't know which one it is yet, but how much background, how much time did you spend up fleshing out the background before you started writing, or did a lot of this kind of evolve as you've been starting your writing process over the years?
So when I wrote When Darkness Prevails, and like if anybody has a copy of When Darkness Prevails, they can attest that that book was pretty much pantsed. Um, so it starts out with the viral outbreak, and then it's like hinting toward this big reveal throughout the book.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get halfway through the book, you reach the climax, and like that's when I introduced like the starships and all this other stuff.
Oh,
So
okay. Yeah.
it very pants, so that's why it needed a very good revision. As far as like the EAN and all of that stuff, I've actually just started developing that in the past year
Mm-hmm.
because I wanted to sprinkle that throughout the beginning of the book too, instead of just
Mm-hmm.
having it as a big reveal in the second half, and kind of make everything more believable. And I don't know if you've seen it, but that TV show The Expanse, like
Heard about it. I haven't seen that one yet.
it's very good. It takes place in the future, and it's got
Mm-hmm.
like Mars is its own independent world, and Earth is its own independent system. And there's these people called or Belters. They live in the asteroid belt and they farm asteroids for ice, for water, and stuff like that.
Oh,
Very political. People call it the Game of Thrones of space, and it definitely lives up to that. And
okay.
so
Well, I'll have to watch it. I'll have to watch it.
definitely recommend it. I really enjoyed the first four seasons. It's very much like what I write. It's like a blend of fantasy and science fiction, and it's a nice blend. It's not like too hard either way.
That's cool.
Enough,
I really like that.
yeah,
And I do see.
enough explanation to keep everyone who's like hard science fiction believing how
Mhm.
starships progressed in that world. But then there's this stuff that they call the proto molecule. I won't go too heavy into it in case anyone hasn't seen it, but that's the fantasy element of um, the Expanse. But the whole political environment or atmosphere in the Expanse is what helped me develop my own a little bit more
Mhm.
because since they reverse engineered technology in my world, they have faster than light drives. They have terraforming technology. And so they have all these outposts that they're creating to try and colonize the stars. And the first thing they did was they put a base on Mars. And
Mhm.
then Mars is the central outpost that supplies all the other outposts. And so when the viral pandemic happens on Earth, Earth is kind of like, okay, we need to focus on our people. And so they start like cutting off Mars and the other outposts.
Ooh.
And so in book two, Epithanor book two, um, I have I haven't settled on it yet, but right now I'm just calling it the Mars Outpost Alliance, the MOA. And they're basically like uniting to try and get resources from Earth, because with the viral pandemic going on, the new president that's in charge is like, we're looking after our own, you get whatever's left over. And so they're rationing food, rationing water. The stations are taking refugees from Earth, so air is starting to get restricted too, and yeah, it's kind of a mess.
I can that it is really neat listening to someone who's like you, who've taken so much time and effort to develop this kind of, like I said, on the ear it sounds like this very rich um realistic environment to an extent, but I think that is really neat. Now I do see a couple comments popping in. I always like to try to do some nods, and yes, there's, if people aren't aware, in the United States, TikTok is trying to defend itself against the Congress to continue, which is like, for some indie authors it is worrisome, because this platform, Book Talk, is one of the, at least in my opinion, one of the best ways to communicate and meet new
Yeah,
readers, meet other
I can.
authors, and network, and hopefully make a few sales along the way too. And so it is a little worrisome, but it's always, my thing is, like, it's always good if you really, really genuinely love a content provider, in our case, be it indie authors, try to follow them multiple places. So if one thing doesn't work, you still have a backup and you're still connected, be it newsletter, be it other socials, be it their website or whatever, Zon, stuff like that. But that's just my thing. That was my pitch.
Completely agree. Yeah, even if it's just a Facebook group or whatever, until they're able to like relaunch another platform. Like
Mm-hmm.
I have a Facebook page too, and it doesn't get nearly as much traffic as my TikTok does.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I'm working on expanding from there. I heard something about YouTube Shorts, so I'm kind of looking into that, figuring out what I want to do.
I haven't dabbled with YouTube Shorts yet. I have a YouTube channel, and what I usually do is, like, I'll have to change things if things go differently in the future, but I usually take our chats like this and repurpose them on YouTube. So
Mhm.
then, people can use them as a reference. And if they wanted to go and, hear a little bit more about your book, and they were like, oh, I missed the beginning of, your talk, they can go back and reference that, stuff like that. But, yeah, I haven't dabbled with shorts, but yeah, I'm one of those authors that probably took on too many platforms at the same time. So I'm on a lot of them, but there are new ones. I just like what you're saying is Clapper. I've heard a couple, been talking, the naming passed around recently, and I don't know, like, I don't know what that one is, but yeah, there are new ones popping up all the time.
I've never heard of either of those, so
Yeah, I
definitely.
think, again, going into the people, there's always people ready to fill the void even before the void is there. So you said you're on Facebook. Do you have a Facebook authors page or a group, or where else can people
Right now
find you?
it's just
Actually, it's always a good question.
it's the same thing as my TikTok. It's David Vissers Books.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I've got my Facebook page. I kind of post onto there. I used to do it more frequently back when books were out. Right now, I feel like I'm kind of in limbo because I don't have a new book cover yet,
Yeah.
and I can't print off any physical copies of my book. So it's hard. It feels like it's hard to advertise without something that I can't physically show people. And so I have
True.
been quiet on TikTok and Facebook recently.
True, but it's always good to also tease and talk about it so people get excited about, your stuff
Right.
before you. So it's that
Yeah.
it's that like little delicate thing where you have to figure out, to what extent can we talk about something that's not out yet, you know, and
Yeah.
maybe build the buzz a little bit. But yeah, what I like to do now is, because with all these little videos I make on Clock App, I just repurpose them on different platforms, and periodically I'll just like rotate, and if I have one, I'll be like, I'm gonna throw it on Insta this today, and I'm gonna throw it on Facebook today, and see if they make someone chuckle.
I've done that a couple times, and one of the videos that I repurposed a couple weeks ago actually got more traction the second time around than it did the first. So I'm definitely going through my older stuff and saving the videos and kind of like putting new words and stuff like that on, change it up a little bit and re-release it. I also doing like page flip videos because you don't need a cover for page flips,
Mm-hmm.
and
Quotes
so
and
that to, like you said, build a little bit of suspense and stuff, anticipation for the new book release coming.
and you've been talking about all these things that inspired you, like The Expanse. You could always do. I'm just popping things off my head, but like always do something that's like, if you like this, then you'll like my to be continued. You know.
Yeah, couple. I've seen a few good ones recently too. Like actually, right before we went on this chat here,
Hmm.
I opened up the app and the first video that popped up was an author taking all these books and movies and dropping them into a blender, and
Oh,
she
the blender.
started on the blender, and then when it turned off, she pulled out her book, and I was like,
Hmm.
that was a cool way to do that.
Yeah. You have to be a little creative, a little unique, true to yourself. But again, it's just fun ways to get people excited about your work, even if it's not out yet. And I'm still always trying to be better about that because, yes, I have books I can market, which is nice at the moment. But I need to be better about when I have an upcoming book, figuring out how to build that buzz as well.
Right.
I'm trying. I'm trying to learn. I'm watching other people and being like, "That's smart. I'm gonna try to copycat that if as long as
Right.
they don't get angry."
Many videos bookmarked that I'm like, that's a great idea. I want to do a play on that. And then
Hmm.
like I'll get busy at work and then I totally space out on it. And then I'm like, oh man, I haven't posted anything this week.
Well, I live by it. People probably have figured this out. Maybe, maybe not. If not, I'm still going to tell you. But I will batch record videos a couple days a week and then have them on my draft. So then I don't have to worry about always making new content every
Right.
day. I can just be, it's already tagged and everything. I'll be like, post.
I used to do that
So I'm
too. And
like wearing the same shirt for like 5 days. It's because I all filmed in one day.
see, I even thought about that too when I was batch making videos. Like I had like 5 shirts stacked up in my office, and I'd be like, "Okay, I'm shooting this video, switch my shirt. Okay, I'm gonna do this video, switch my shirt." So I do them all in the same day, and it would look like I'm doing them different days because I'm wearing something else. And
You're too much energy for me, man.
I think I went a
I'm too
little too.
lazy. The most I'll do is maybe stick on a hat and like if I'm doing one of those two people kind of thing, put on a hat, take it off.
Right?
But yeah, no.
Yeah, for a while I was doing like an alter ego. I would put on my Boba Fett helmet and
Mhm.
like a red light on so everything looked evil, and like
Ooh.
did like a skit back and forth between me and this alter ego telling me to like do unhappy endings and unalive people and stuff like that.
All the things.
Yeah.
No. Okay, that actually makes me want to question. So what age range do you want to pitch your books? Because I do what probably is not advisable. I have the same name for all my books because they're under epic fantasy, but because I have
Mhm.
three different series in different age groups, I do write for young adults, I do write new adults, and I do have adult stuff. And so, what age range would your book or books? I don't know if they're all going to be in the same kind of like. I don't know what you. Well, who would you pitch it to?
So with this rebrand, I'm elevating to new adult.
Okay.
My former publisher had me stuck in this YA dystopian category,
Hmm.
and so that's what I had to pitch for the longest time. But with this revision, I decided to step it up to new adult, and so that's going to be my new audience that I'm going to aim for with my new books.
And that allows you the ability to talk about certain things or bring in certain levels of grit that you may not be able
Yes.
to in true young YA thing. So that does open the door a little bit for you. So I like that.
Yep. And with how
Okay.
dark the series is going to get at some points, I kind of wanted that being in that territory of the new adult,
Mhm.
because I don't want to go too dark for YA.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah, and I
like
know for me that I again, I say this so often, but I do everything the wrong way at least once. So when I was releasing my first book, I'll tilt this a little bit. It's like it's kind of dark in here, so you can't really see, but it's the one in blue, as far as claws. When I was recently releasing that one, I wrote it and it reads like a YA and everything, and it's great. Um, and when I was working through it, I first thought it was going to be a standalone, and then I was going to jump over to this other series that I had intended to get to, but ended up figuring out it's going to be a 4-book series before the end, end of it. But the other 3, because that the rest of the storyline kind of came as a bundle together, does get, you know, a lot darker. It does deal with certain topics, does deal with a lot of unaliving. It's a war-based story. And so because of that, I catered the whole series as new adult, because I'm like, I wouldn't feel comfortable pitching this series as a whole to all young adult readers. Some young adult readers, if they're on the older side, that's fine. But young adult readers, by definition, are 13 and up, which means 11-year-olds are picking up YA, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Yep. And that's the that species I was telling you about, the Rockness.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Part of what they do is genocide,
Mm-hmm.
and I
That's a
don't
hard topic.
like you said, an 11-year-old picking up the
Mm-hmm.
book and being like, "Oh my, they just unalived an entire planet of people."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's a bit too dark, and
Yeah.
the like my elevator pitch says, the chosen one loses herself throughout the story. So each book is getting darker and darker, and she's becoming this different person that she wasn't in the beginning. And like she's even starting to make these like genocidal decisions to try and defeat
Mm-hmm.
race. And I just didn't want to do that with a YA approach. So
Yeah.
my might read kind of YA-ish, but it's definitely going to be my audience is new adult.
Yeah. No, and I do like that. And it's one of those things, I don't know when, someone can fact check this, when the term new adult was coined, but there's still a lot of people that don't know it exists, and or you know, or relatively unfamiliar with it. But I do like the fact that it is there, because it does kind of help split a little bit of, you know, you can still have the slightly younger main characters,
Yep.
but you can deal with more adult topics, and it'll gives that nice branch, that little, that fills that niche, and then you don't have to worry that your preteen, teen, young teen is going to read something and be like, oh my. And the same thing goes on the spice side of things too. You know, if you really wanted to be a spicy YA, don't be a YA. Put it up to new adults.
I so much now, like so many YA books are all these spicy books, and it's like I think that should be new adult.
Yes,
Like
there's definitely a number I would categorize differently if I could.
yeah,
Which
there's
doesn't, you know, don't change anything else about it, just who you're pitching it to or the category you're dropping it in.
yeah, yeah. My first book, the main character, she's 17, senior year of high school, and that's kind of where the book starts off.
Mm-hmm.
She's at school when
Yes.
this pandemic starts,
Mm-hmm.
and second book jumps 2 years later.
Yeah,
Um,
perfect for new
19
adulthood.
living in this colony on this alien planet, and like she lost her world, had to leave her world. She's losing family and stuff like that, and she gets a mentor, and like she loses her mentor and stuff. So like she's dealing with a lot of loss, and being such a young person doesn't quite know how to deal with it, other than like just keeping her mind on the task at hand, trying to defeat this evil race by any means necessary. And that's quite literally what it becomes, any means necessary.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's, there are always interesting topics, morality wise, that come into play with books you can push to older crowds, be it adult, new adult, that you might not want to reach necessarily for younger readers. But, you know, it is also kind of fun, seeing a person who does it periodically and planning to do more in the future, is have your character, you know, you want them to be good, but they but choices they have to face, changes them dramatically. And eventually you're going to have those choices that there's no good answer. There's nothing right about what you have to do. You just have to decide, is a greater good worth it in the end?
Yep.
but, uh, but yeah, no, I totally get that.
Yeah. And right
So
now,
what? Oh, sorry. Go, yeah.
I'm kind of playing with the idea. Like you know how the Hunger Games ended, where
Hmm.
she kind of like did what she needed to do for the greater good, and then just kind of like went off into exile at the end.
Hmm.
Yeah, like I'm playing with how I don't even know how I'm gonna end the series yet. I might just let the series get pantsed or the ending be pantsed, and kind of what happens. But
Hmm.
I don't want to pull the Hunger Games ending because a lot of people see that coming a mile away, and I don't. Being a suspense author, I don't want to. I
Yeah.
want to try that.
Yeah, you wanna be a little unpredictable because you don't want people to expect the ending. At least, like you said, if you're a little more suspense based style of writing. So, where did you come up with that original idea? I know you said you kind of pants the first book, but like, where did it come from?
Um,
What
so
inspired it?
so what happened was I had my fantasy world and all these aliens and stuff, and I didn't have a plot for any of it.
Hmm.
And I was trying to think of all kinds of different stuff, but it just felt like I was recycling old stuff. Like I mean, the storyline of Avatar, we've seen that so many times, and I wanted to avoid doing something like that. And then when Darkness Prevails, when I started writing that book, that was originally intended to be a standalone sci-fi horror. It was never meant to have any space opera in it, no fantasy, none of that. And but my issue was I could never think of an ending for it.
Yeah,
And so then one day I just had the idea, what if I take all of this and just put it together? And
that's neat.
what happened?
Hey, I love that. Like everybody has totally different reasons of what inspires their books or their stories or the origin of the story itself comes from different ways. And like for me, um, all mine have very different origins. Like one was based off a dream, another one was something based off childhood multiverse, which before I learned the term, I was like, yay big. But was creating this multiverse with my sister during our imaginary play, and so that
Yeah.
stemmed that one. And then my love of mythology, I'm doing a twisted retelling, very dark retelling of Norse myth, and that so they all come from different ways, and it's just fun to find out. Like
Yeah.
why as an author, what gave you that spark, that initial idea, and
Mine are
then
so
sorry,
boring.
yeah, yeah.
Mine sounds so boring when I explain that it's writer's block, the reason that it all happened.
Hey, that's unique though. That is definitely unique. You don't hear that one a lot. So, what was it that then made you decide I'm going to put the story to paper? Because not a lot of people will come up with ideas, but that doesn't mean they're going to sit down and take the time to write. So, what made you sit down and write and actually put the story to paper or
When
virtual
I
paper?
was younger, when I was younger, I read Dean Koontz. I read any book he wrote that I could get my hands on. A
Mm-hmm.
couple of them were a bit beyond my comprehension when I was a kid. Probably
Yeah,
should,
well, that's fine.
but I read anything by him. And in
Mm-hmm.
2008, this little me in middle school decided to write Koontz a letter and was like, "Oh, so cool! I want to write a book someday." Typical idolization. And
Yeah.
he actually wrote back,
Love that.
gave me a signed photograph, gave me all these printouts of everything on how to write my first book and what to.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, he did all of this. Now I at least need to write the book. And that's how it all started.
I love that. I love that. That is so cool.
Yeah, and
So, I mean, sorry, yeah.
I'm actually dedicating my re-release to Dean Koontz. Dark
Oh, I love that.
Stars.
That's
Yep.
perfect.
Yep.
That's definitely perfect. I know when I was younger, when I always, I pretty much, even when I was yay big, knew I was going to write a book, but it was going to be this series because I wanted to share this multiverse with the world. So I was like, I was going to do it. I just didn't know how yet. I was a little too young to like focus and like sit down and write, but I was like, I'm going to do it one day. It's going to be fine. I had that confidence going. And then Aragon publishes, and it's a young boy who's
Hmm.
my age, and he wrote a book, and I was just like, well, that I I need to get going.
Yep.
I need to do stuff with my life. But
Me.
because just watching, learning about Paolini and his story, because he was homeschooled just like I was homeschooled at the same time, and how he and his mom kind of went around pretty much door to door with like libraries and schools around the country to kind of spread the word, because we didn't have all this social media really
Hmm.
at that point. And then got picked up and everything, and it was really kind of a cool story. So young idolizing self too wrote a letter to him, and he did write back.
Oh,
And
cool.
so I have his letter tucked away in one of the books. And at that point he was talking about how he was going to finish his trilogy, obviously before he decided to make it a four book
Yep.
series. But that's kind of so that was my one time where I wrote to an author. And so for me, it's whenever someone tries to reach out to me for whatever reason, at this moment, if I have the time, I'm going to try to respond and make that effort, because you never know who else you're going to influence going forward.
Yep. Same
You may
here.
be someone else's coons one day. It's a cool little thought.
Yep. Yeah. My
So, what? Sorry, yeah.
I have a 14-year-old sister, and she's already writing fan fiction in my universe.
Wow.
So like that was very cool learning that.
Oh,
And she's like creating these maps and stuff for my islands and
oh,
telling
that's really cool.
stories. Yeah. It's very cool.
See, and then you have to let her give you the rights to commercialize them. You could also now use those cool little maps that she makes and give them out as like
Yeah.
little bonus gifts to fans and everything, and be like, my sister's fan map of my universe, world, country, whatever it is. But that's cool. I like that. Man, I want someone to do fan fiction. Wait, no, I want someone to do fan art.
Right.
Do fan art of my
I
work.
would
That would be
love.
fantastic. I love that. But definitely cool. I love that. It's just a perfect little feeling right there. But yeah, now I was gonna ask you something, and I totally am drawing a blank right now. It's been a long day. I like had zero sleep, so
I've been up
I'm
since like
shining the light as bright as I can on my face to like hide the dark circles at the moment. But yeah, so when do you plan to release another book? Because I know with all these revamps and everything, and you just re-released one, it may still be a number. It could be years, it could be months, it could be weeks.
yeah.
What's your game plan at this moment? Obviously, it can change.
So my current plan is to do Epithanor over the next 4 years. Do one book a year, a
Mhm.
total of 4 books in the series. So Darkness in a Sea of Stars is the first one, and it's scheduled to release December of this year. Um,
Woo.
all ready to enter beta phase, so I'm doing really good on progress for that. I just need to get up on my marketing. Um, and then the second one is currently titled Shadow of a Distant Sun. That was what was previously titled The Gods of Ricora. So that'll be book 2 coming out next year, December of next year. So I'm planning December of each year for the next 4 years.
Very
And
nice.
as far as this book goes, I'm not sure exactly where that's going to go. It definitely needs more work,
Hmm.
more put into it, going through a developmental editor. Um, but at the soonest, it would probably be 2025. So
It's a good structure. It's good to have like your gaps, because there are authors who can turn around a book a month.
mhm,
Kudos to you.
yeah, right.
Cannot figure that one out. But you do. You want to make sure your work is quality and everything, and not everybody turns a book out A month, a
Yep.
year. Hello, hello, Martin. I'm looking at you. When are you putting? Where's
Hey,
this book? But yeah, some people maybe a little too slow, but a year gap, that's not bad. That's not bad. That's
yeah,
doable. That's like
yeah,
what they do in the big professional houses anyways. They rarely, with a few exceptions, I usually have like a good spacing between books that an author puts out, no matter how fast they write.
yeah. Yeah, Dean Koontz still puts out 2 books a year,
Hmm.
and it's always January and July.
Yeah.
And I was kind of just thinking like doing my own schedule, and so like everyone knows that I'll have a book coming out in December of each year. So like
No,
I said, Darkness in a Sea of Stars, December of 2023. Shadow of a Distant Sun, December 2024.
that's really good. I love the idea of having a hard schedule. I keep trying to do that, and something always messes it up. I would like to be able to be an author who does that because it is something that people can then rely on. And I'm sorry, it's the first time this calendar year that the ice cream truck just drove by. And so if you hear weird music behind me, first time this year. I guess it's getting warm enough that they're backing it out and about. But yeah, having that schedule that definitely does help authors that I've talked to that are able to keep that whatever it is. And like you
Mm-hmm.
said, it could be every 2 years, but if it's at the same time, people know when to expect it, and that also helps build that reliability and the buzz because people will
Yeah.
be saying, "Oh, it's about that time of year again," and they'll definitely be rechecking in. Um, yeah, I wish I could figure out how to do that
It
smoothly.
definitely helped having the manuscripts done
Yeah.
before. So I've got the manuscript of Darkness done and the manuscript of the second book done, and then I have the outline of the third book. I just have to write
Mhm.
the but with 2 years, I think I can get that third book ready to release in 2020.
Yeah, yeah, a little bit. And oh yeah, and like, I have to understand also, depending on the author, not everybody's full time. A lot of times, authors, especially indie authors, are doing the writing, doing the marketing, doing the advertising, doing the prepping, editing, goes on and on and on and on after work, before work, on
Exactly.
the weekend, on their holidays, whenever they can squeeze it in. And so, having a longer gaps is understandable.
Yeah, and I do
And,
work. I'm a chef at a university, and
ooh,
so that does take up a good chunk of my time. And until actually until NaNoWriMo last year,
yeah,
I only wrote part time, and then I decided to partake in NaNoWriMo. Got a
ooh,
lot
good
of
for
stuff done.
you.
I think I did like 60,000 words. I was like, if I can do 60,000 words in November, I can move to full time and start writing.
Yeah, no, definitely. And yeah, that's dedication. I have not done NaNoWriMo, but because, again, do everything the wrong way, releasing two series simultaneously. And so, kind of like you, I have them all staggered differently. And so, someone's always at an editor, someone else is always at beta readers, something's I'm actively writing, others have been sitting on the shelf waiting for their turn to go through this process. And then you're formatting and trying to release. And it's like, there's so much going on. I like, woo, I don't have that.
Yep.
My time's dedicated to the process in a weird ways. And then of course marketing takes a lot of my time trying to figure it out. Figure it
Yeah.
out. One day I'll be like, I got it. I
Yep.
won't ever be there. But
Yeah, and I
I
have
win.
novellas planned, and I have
Mhm.
about releasing the novellas every year as well to get that two books a year. But
Yeah.
I don't want to bite off too much right now, and I just started going my own way, so I don't want to mess anything up. I want to make sure that I put everything out when it's ready.
I love that. I love that. You have to find your own pace. And some people can speed that pace up. Some
Yep.
people have to slow it down, but you have to do it what's right for your own pace. And I keep trying to outpace myself. That's not good. That is not good.
Yep.
But yeah, that's what I do right now is um I am full-time author and artist. So I kind of comp one with the other as well, but I always try to release it right a full-time, a full-time, a full big book once a year. And then because I have a novella series, which is my Vikings, I release about 4 of those a year. But that makes up like a second book, really. So it's really 2 books, but it looks like 5, which makes me
Right.
feel better. But when you actually count, it's just a little more work because then I have to do that much more cover design and stuff. Formatting. Why? Why did I? Who thought this was a good idea? I did. But I'm enjoying it. I am enjoying it, but it's always fun. I can at least laugh at myself. Hopefully everybody else who works with me laughs too, or else they're crying because I put weird pressure on everybody. So yeah, I still have that ice cream truck. If you want ice cream out there, calling once. With that said, I'm totally blanking on what I was about to ask. I was going to ask, oh, finding following. Do you have a newsletter? Again, kind of going back to that concept of if certain socials disappear, how
Yeah.
can people follow you? I mean, I can have a newsletter, but do you? Have you done that yet? Or are you considering? Or?
I have a newsletter that's available through my website.
What?
Um, I still have to redo my website from when my publisher had it. Like it still has their logos and everything on it.
Everything
So
FaceTime.
yeah, I've got a big list of stuff to get done over the summer, and so that's one of them. But I do have a newsletter, and I just received control of my newsletter, so I am going to start being personally responding to all of my followers through the newsletter
Okay.
before the publisher that kind of handled all of that.
Yeah, I mean that is a big changeover. Um I haven't done it, so it's kind of like a little foreign to me, but just knowing working in one kind of format and structure and having other people say this is my job, and then all of a sudden you get all the jobs. That's a lot.
Yep.
And also having to, like you said, rebrand and make sure everything's right. So that is a huge feat in and among itself. So kudos to you that you're doing it, and I hope you're super successful. So we've rounded the hour. I feel like hours always go quicker than you think when I tell people we talk for an hour and they're like an hour. I'm like,
Yeah.
but it's like casual. It's kind of like you just talk. But I always want to make sure I ask towards the end because we actually covered the whole social media and newsletter and everything and website. But is there anything that we have not talked about that you would like to talk about, or is there anything you would want someone to know about you, where you're going on that we just haven't covered, or an announcement? Just letting you have.
No, I think we covered everything, and I kind of did get into a bit where I was rambling about my book. Well, it felt like I
It's
was
okay.
rambling about it, and
Hey, this is your chance to talk about your book to whatever extent. I had an author almost walk through every part of her book, and I kept trying to pause her because I was like, "Don't give the whole thing away.
that's
You
what I
want
was.
people to buy." Don't, because this is gonna be publicly pushed. But like, since but it's good. It's good if you love your book and you just get into talking about it. That's I want to do that, but I also don't want to spoil it for people. So I'm kind of like, do you want to do a private chat and we can like talk about my book? We do
Right?
that. But yeah, so I understand that. I understand that. But
Yeah.
yeah, so thank you so much for coming out tonight, or you're earlier than I am, but coming out today, this evening, tonight
Yeah,
to
it
talk.
occurred in Wisconsin.
Okay, so you're not that far away, but yeah, Eastern Standard Time, and that's where I am, and so it's getting a little later. But with that said, thank you so much for coming out and chit chatting with me. And if you ever want to do one of these again, I mean, I do them weekly.
Okay. Yeah, this
So
is a lot of fun. I would definitely be up for it.
yeah, and I like lives when I get a look at someone in the face because it took me a while to be comfortable to do solo ones. Now I'm more comfortable with that,
Yeah.
but for me it's nice to have someone to talk to that I can see their face
Right.
and
Doing
I can
script
fill in the gaps.
and you're doing a TikTok or YouTube video or something like that. Like you're like, oh no, I didn't say that right. Let me rewind it. Like you're
Mhm.
talking, and it's a little bit different. It's not so like trying to do things perfect.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I definitely stumble across my words and get tongue tied all the time,
Yep.
but it depends on how late it is, how much sleep I've gotten, the day of the week. That all plays
I get
factors.
when I get really talking, I tend to stutter sometimes, and like
You're
when
good.
I'm TikTok and I start doing that, I'm just like, I need to put the phone away. I need to walk away because it's just like it drives me nuts.
You're good. It was actually fun. It was like you're very just chill to talk to, which I like. I like that because they're definitely different people who are a little more tense and everything, and it's just like relax,
Yeah.
relax. We're all bookish friends here.
This is my first live on any platform, so this,
Oh yay!
this was definitely a
No,
lot.
it's not that scary.
No.
It's different, but it's not that scary.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again for coming out. And like I said, reach out to me at any time. And but yeah, I'm gonna probably go and gear up for bed because I almost pulled an all-nighter last night for no reason. So I'm gonna crash early. Just saying. But thank you again. And for everybody who's been chiming in, thank you for chiming in and saying hi to us. And if you want to learn more about us and follow us, well, follow us if you want. No pressure, but if you want. Just saying.
No
But
pressure.
I will talk to you soon. And thank you. Good night, everyone.
Thank you so much. Good night.